and never got an answer to was, why was it so necessary to learn these people's names?
Byron York, we appreciate it. We can't wait. I mean, Christmas is early. We're getting all these sentencing memos. Big night tomorrow night. And while the resistance has...
This is not, strictly speaking, a Bob Mueller investigation. This is an example of where he discovers something. His FBI agents learned something about Podesta's brother in the course of interrogating witnesses. They're looking at whether or not the Podesta firm, in conjunction with the Manafort firm, did lobbying for political groups in the Ukraine and did not tell the federal government. This is the first time that the Democrats or any Democrat is arguably within the ambit of something that that Bob Mueller does.
Now, while the resistance has been cheering its every move, a referral from the Mueller probe involving former Obama and Clinton aides is now heating up with an increased focus on Clinton-linked Washington insider Tony Podesta and former Obama White House counsel Greg Craig. Here to help us make sense of all of these players, constitutional law professor, Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley. Professor, assuming this is true, why shouldn't we be just as critical of this in terms of an overreach by Mueller as we were when the other parties involved?
Well, no, that's a valid point. These violations, in terms of registering as foreign agents, used to occur rather regularly. I mean, it's a rather regular practice in Washington for people to mix these things. If they get caught on them, they would often retroactively apply for these. They generally were not viewed as strong criminal cases, but they went after people like Mueller and others for the failure to register for these types of issues, and now it looks like they're proceeding against people like Podesta. What's interesting about Podesta is
he was offered immunity, wasn't he?
That's right.
Summer, use immunity.
Yeah, he wasn't given transactional, but he was offered immunity. He did
a little more limited.
That's right. Yeah. And so, and since then, of course, Manafort did speak with them a great deal, and so there is a possibility that Manafort did drop a dime on people like Podesta.
Well, and I think for Mueller's case, if he's laying out some case against some member of the Trump, circle. If he seems to be a little bit more even-handed in how he kind of throws out the judgment or the facts, it'll be better for the overall credibility of the report, perhaps?
I think it will be, but the problem is, if this is how it ends, it's going to be rather underwhelming. I mean, this is like going around and shooting the wounded. These are not significant crimes. They may be perfectly appropriate to proceed for, certainly to refer, but this is not what we've all been waiting for. Now, maybe he'll prove to be that Agatha Christie prosecutor. In the final scene, we find out all of the characters and things they didn't tell us before. But if not, there's going to be a lot of disappointed folks in this town.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes down to Farah, the foreign agent,
right.
No.
Or Corsi and Stone, that's going to be rather
yeah. Well, again, where's the collusion?
That's right.
Where's the work between the Trump circle and Russia to throw the election or to get Hillary and to release the email? I don't know. This is a long process, and it doesn't seem like, I mean, is it ending? Do you think it's ending?
I think it is ending, but we have all of these speaking indictments have been filed. None of them suggest that there is any connection, any knowing involvement with Russians by top Trump officials thus far that would just sustain this type of collusion conspiracy that people are talking about. Now, maybe he's holding it for the end, but we haven't seen it so far.
Bill Barr's name was out there today as perhaps Trump's pick to be Attorney General. A couple other names are out there, Chris Christie and a few others. What about Bill Barr, former Attorney General himself for a short period of time?
Bill would be just an absolutely brilliant choice. He is a go-by-the-book guy. He is as steady as a rock. I represented him during the Clinton impeachment with a bunch of other former attorney generals. In fact, one time I got a call from him at like 40,000 feet in his plane heading to Europe to tell me he spotted a typo in one of our briefs. I spent years. Yeah, I spent years in therapy over that.
Yeah, so he's a
that's the worst moment. Exactly. He's actually one of the best lawyers I've ever encountered, which really puts the pressure on when you represent him. But he would be ideal. And he would get through the Senate very, very easily. He would bring instant credibility. You could not pick a better guy at this moment for that job.
And he's already was once confirmed. I mean, they're citing things that he said about Comey. We'll play just a quick snippet. This is from May of 2017. Let's watch.
He crossed the basic line back in July, fundamental line in the department, which is that investigations are supervised and directed by the lawyers, the prosecutors at the department, not the agents. And What is of concern, and certainly what appears to have concerned the administration, was not so much that transgression, but his steadfast refusal to acknowledge that he had transgressed those limits on his power.
Not shy about talking about what.
No, but it's hard to imagine anyone who would object with anything he just said. The Democrats have been saying that. The Republicans have been saying that. It's the one point upon which there's universal agreement is that Comey overstepped his bounds. And that was in the Rosenstein memo. Rosenstein quoted Democratic and Republican appointees saying that what he did bordered on the horrific. So the point that you should really get out of that is really the essence of Barr, that he was loved by agents at the Justice Department.
Boy, do they need that now.
Yeah, and he's just this rock-solid guy who views these things with clarity. He speaks very directly to them. There's no effort on his part to spin ever. He just talks directly to the issue. Comey was outside the navigational beacons, and he said that.
And he and Comey couldn't be different. I mean, Bill is someone who doesn't want the credit. He doesn't need to get the credit, but steadfast and clear. And I would not want to debate him on any legal issue. I'm glad you were representing him and not I. Jonathan Turley, thanks so much. And when you hear the term deep state, you might think it refers to topics like the ones we just discussed. But what if it extends to government climate reports, too? An analyst digs in next.